We sat together in that quiet room, breathing in rhythm like two instruments learning the same melody. There was no rush, no pressure, no performance, just presence. And sometimes presence itself is the most radical act of healing. After a few minutes he opened his eyes again. The tension in his face had softened, and for the first time since I met him he wasn't scanning the room for danger. He was here, with his breath, with himself. He exhaled and said, "It's strange. The more I breathe, the more I feel like something inside me is melting." "It is," I said gently. "Your nervous system is thawing." He frowned slightly, as if the idea was unfamiliar, uncomfortable even. "Thawing?" I nodded. When people go through years of stress, trauma, pressure, or emotional suppression, their body doesn't stay warm and open. It freezes, it numbs, it protects. And when you finally breathe intentionally, the ice starts melting. He leaned back, absorbing every word. "That explains a lot. I've always felt disconnected, like I'm in my life but not really in it." "That's dissociation," I said softly. "A survival mechanism, a brilliant one, actually. It's your brain saying, you don't have the capacity to deal with this right now, so I'll store it for later." He laughed, but not out of humor, out of recognition. "I think my brain has been storing things for decades. Then today," I said, "you're finally starting to make space." He breathed again, slow, controlled, curious, almost as if he was experimenting with the idea of being alive in a new way. As he did, something shifted in the room. A heaviness lifted, a stillness settled, and I felt a kind of sacred vulnerability unfold between us, the kind that only appears when someone allows themselves to feel again. He whispered, "I don't think I've ever actually listened to my breath before." I smiled softly. "Most people never do. But breath carries the truth of your entire life." He paused, looking at me with a mix of wonder and fear. "What if I don't like what it tells me?" That's a question filled with a lifetime of hidden pain. I leaned in and said, "Then you breathe anyway, because breath doesn't force you to face everything at once. It lets you meet your truth one inhale at a time." His eyes softened, and he nodded, as if accepting an invitation he had been rejecting his whole life. Then he said, "I've been avoiding myself." "Most people do," I replied. "Not because they're weak, but because nobody ever taught them how to feel safely." He rested his elbows on his knees, staring at the floor. His voice dropped to almost a whisper. "I've been so scared of slowing down, because slowing down means all the things I've avoided might finally show up." "They will," I said, "but only when you're ready to hear them." He took a breath, not a nervous one, not a forced one, a willing one. "Can breathing really help with that?" he asked, and I let the truth land slowly. Breath is your anchor. When everything inside you feels like a storm, breath reminds you that you were still here, that you're still safe, that you're still in control. It doesn't erase the storm, but it stops it from drowning you. He closed his eyes, breathing as if he was holding those words inside his chest, letting them sink into the deepest, oldest parts of him. After a moment he said, "I've spent my whole life trying to be tough. But this feels like real strength." "Because it is," I said. "Anyone can brace, not everyone can soften." He inhaled deeply, his breath steadier than ever. "I want to learn how to do this every day," he said, "and not just when I'm falling apart." "That's the secret," I replied. "You don't breathe to fix crises, you breathe to prevent them." He nodded again, and then something unexpected happened. He placed his hand over his heart. It was a small gesture, but profound, like a person finally returning home after decades of living outside their own skin. He whispered, "I can actually feel myself. I can feel me." And something inside me warmed, because that moment, right there, is the moment people begin to heal. Not when they learn a new technique, not when they break down or have revelations, but when they finally reconnect with the version of themselves they abandoned long ago. His breathing slowed naturally, without instruction, like his body had found its own rhythm again. He opened his eyes and said something quietly, but it carried the weight of years. "Why didn't anyone teach us this growing up?" I smiled a little sadly. "Because our world teaches us to run, not to return." He nodded, understanding. I added, "But you're returning now. That's what matters." He exhaled, long and gentle, as if releasing a grief he'd carried his whole life. And in that soft exhale, something inside him shifted permanently. Not dramatically, not loudly, but deeply. Breath had begun the work only breath can do,